Hey guys, Noel here, and it is Thursday, and I wasn't substitute teaching today, so I thought it would be fun to take a little bit of the time out of the day to do a weblog for the politics section of the old YouTube channel. I haven't had a chance to do a YouTube video talking about the fallout of the 2016 election. I've done a few videos about the primaries, Bernie Sanders, Donald Trump, those kinds of things, but now that everything's over, figured it'd be fun to do a little bit of blogging about it. So here we go. First and foremost, I think that the main reason that Donald Trump won was basically liberal hypocrisy and how that really rubbed a lot of voters the wrong way. I think that by the time we got to the general election, Noam Chomsky's thesis that the United States was a failed state had been pretty thoroughly proven because what that means is that basically a nation state has the technical functions of a democracy, but there's not actually any democratic process to it. And I think we can see that, especially in the Democratic Party, where there was, very much a kind of a cabal to ensure that Bernie Sanders didn't win and ensure that Hillary Clinton did win. On the flip side of it, so Hillary Clinton was a very unpopular candidate that the party really kind of shoved down the population's throat. And she was popular with kind of coastal, cosmopolitan, liberal, bourgeois elites and their sympathizers. Trump, on the other hand, was very unpopular with a lot of people, but because he positioned himself as an outsider, he was kind of the establishment, kind of breakaway, right wing. Sentiment of the same kind of Bernie Sanders movement. So if you look at the spectrum of political reform with kind of a radical edge to it, at least rhetorically, you had Bernie Sanders on the left and Donald Trump on the right. And once you got to the point where you had Hillary Clinton versus Donald Trump was enough of an outsider politically to be an attractive option to an establishment face who was rightly associated with corruption, impunity, etc. Now, there are some people who will say, oh, well, Donald Trump, he was sued a bunch of times. Yeah, but sued for what? I mean, if you look at the gravity of corruption between Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump is guilty of ripping off consumers. Hillary Clinton is guilty of war crimes. Now, the reason I say that is because, and I've said this before, is, Donald Trump flips real estate, Hillary Clinton flips nation states. That's the difference in the gravity. It's like Donald Trump can be a sleazy real estate tycoon, but Hillary Clinton is this kind of realpolitik. Let's insert the United States in a third world civil war to try to spin the events to benefit U.S. geopolitics, and the humanitarian consequences of that are secondary because, again, this is realpolitik. Now, there are some people who will raise concerns. It's like, well, what happens when you get Donald Trump in that situation? And that's a giant question mark. But the thing is, and with this election, I think people went with the devil they didn't know because the devil that they did know was so annoying and insufferable. So I really think that that's a lot of the issues that led to Donald Trump getting elected. Not again on the topic of liberal hypocrisy. You had people in the media like Samantha Bee and Trevor Noah and John Oliver really treating Donald Trump's voters and potential voters with a lot of contempt. And so these kind of people who associate themselves and cheerlead for Hillary Clinton, I think also did her a disservice too, because it's basically like your friends are condescending assholes. Why would I support you? In addition to the fact that you're a hypocrite because you're claiming that you speak for working people while you're, going around in, these vacuum bag dresses worth tens of thousands of dollars, and all of your policy, since you've been associated with national politics, has been one of neoliberal imperialism, which is highly apologetic to the corporate class, of which Donald Trump is a part of, but is kind of breaking away from the neoliberal component of, at least rhetorically. That's another thing that really helped Donald Trump. And if Donald Trump, who's a pretty good at PR, he's kind of got that Reagan Teflon effect, where even though his policies aren't popular, his persona is popular. At least it's popular enough where people opted for him as opposed to Hillary Clinton. Now, some people are going to say, oh, well, what about the popular vote? But the realism of that is if you take away New York City and Los Angeles, Hillary Clinton loses the popular vote. I live in upstate New York, and I know firsthand how New York City skews electoral results in ways that do not reflect the will of the state. And if you were a Bernie Sanders supporter, you saw the exact same thing happen, where Bernie Sanders carried the overwhelming geographic majority of the state, but lost like 4 cities, and that was the end of it. And the Electoral College, one of the ways that it functions properly is to prevent that from happening. And here's another component of liberal hypocrisy that really annoyed a lot of people, myself included, is that when Hillary Clinton lost, a lot of people were bemoaning the Electoral College, but when it came time to, and you had people on social media were in absolute hysterics, when it came time for the Electoral College to vote, you had all these Hillary Clinton voters now pleading with the Electoral College not to elect Donald Trump. So what is it? Is the Electoral College something that you like or don't like, or are you just operating with hysterics and kind of willful opportunism? And if you are operating with willful opportunism, then what makes you better than Donald Trump? And that is another point that I want to bring up, is that a lot of things that Donald Trump gets accused of, rightly so, is for being Chomsky called him a thin-skinned narcissist, and he's right. But the reason he brings that up is because Donald Trump is always on Twitter, kind of trolling people. But all of his liberal critics on social media are exactly like that. They're these hyper emotional internet bullies, and when something doesn't go their way, they just have a total meltdown in the status bar. And so the thing that I would bring up is that maybe one of the reasons that some of Donald Trump's critics don't like him is because they may very well remind them of themselves, remind them of the parts of themselves that they can identify with and don't like. Rick Roderick, who is a dead philosopher who used to lecture at Duke, he had a lot of good teaching company videos. In his lecture on Hegel, he talked about how the most dangerous set of standards to live by are your own, because someone might actually expect you to follow them. So my answer is that people are saying Donald Trump is unfit to lead because he's hyper emotional and on social media all the time. And then when Hillary Clinton lost, you had people hyper emotional on social media. And another thing that I want to bring up is that when it was expected that Hillary Clinton was going to win, all of the pundits were talking about how Donald Trump's irrational voters were going to reject the outcome, and how terrible and disgusting that was, and terrifying, in Hillary Clinton's words, that was going to be, the peaceful transfer of power, so on and so forth. But when Donald Trump ended up winning, you had people rioting in the name of, of rejecting Donald Trump, not my president, blah blah blah. So again, it's when you're in a framework of terrible choices, and one of those choices is hypocrisy championed by the hub of neoliberal imperialism and global illegal impunity, and illegal both from an international law perspective in terms of aggression against other countries, but also illegal in the sense of elementary morality. Okay, so you have that, and then in the other option, you have this um, kind of a rogue oligarch, mass culture, artificial persona that's making fun of everything that you hate. And in some cases, he's making fun of things that you hate for a good reason. In some cases, he's making, like, the political and economic establishment, of which he's a part of, but not as much as the things that people hate the most. And then being a real estate person, he knows how to manipulate racist tendency, because there are certain people like white flight and things like that. And as a real estate person, I'm sure or his handlers are sensitive to that. And like any politician, they're not afraid to exploit that. Hillary Clinton included, when she started that whole Obama's not really an American thing when she was running against him. Final point that I want to bring up is the Russia dimension to this. I think there's been a lot of linguistic dishonesty happening in the media. I think that the term election hacking has nothing to do with anything. That makes it sound like Russia hacked and manipulated the election results, which they didn't do. What that is what Russia is basically being accused of is what we did with Radio Free Europe. Blasting political transparency into a country against the will of its political leaders. That's what Russia's getting accused of, and that's what's being called election hacking. Now, does that mean I like Vladimir Putin? No, but I'm just using common sense here, okay? This is someone who studies history, just trying to weigh and interpret the reality of the situation. So there's no evidence that's been presented that Russia hacked any voting machines, and the evidence that's presented that Russia was actually behind the hacking of Democratic Party emails is thin to non-existent. I was watching the news today, and maybe I didn't watch it long enough, but all I heard was this again, like 16 intelligence agencies, and say that Russia was involved, and there's no evidence being presented. I mean, to me, what this reminds me of is, and maybe I'll be proven wrong. I don't know. I mean, I'm willing to give them the benefit of the doubt that Russia did this, and I still don't think anything wrong happened, because we do this to Russia all the time, especially in the Cold War. But to me, this reminds me a lot of the weapons of mass destruction at the UN. It's like, oh, we need some kind of evidence, so let's just get someone up there to talk, and they'll talk and not say anything. So you have Colin Powell running his mouth and not presenting any evidence, but oh, Colin Powell talked, so that must mean something, right? So, anyway, ultimately, I'm pretty disappointed. I didn't vote for either Hillary Clinton or Donald Trump. I voted for Jill Stein only because I felt that, out of respect to Bernie Sanders, basically. But I don't think that Donald Trump getting elected president is going to be really anything exceptional, other than the fact that he's going to just take away the middleman. I think that politicians have historically, at least in my lifetime, been bribed by corporate interests to write laws in the interest of corporate, private, massive concentrations of wealth. What Donald Trump is doing is just putting those massive corporate concentrations of wealth, those people who run corporations in the private sector, he's just cutting the lobbyists out and putting the lobbyists and putting the corporate heads in positions in his cabinet. So now there's no need to lobby anymore. You're just basically having the capitalists running things directly, the private sector capitalists running things directly, rather than bribing the public sector capitalists to do what they want. So this has been my weblog. I hope you have a nice day. Stay informed, and don't succumb to fear-based hate mongering, which is something that a lot of liberals have succumbed to after Donald Trump won. And to me, that has shown me that these liberals are no better than the conspiratorial conservatives who were saying that Obama wasn't born in the country and this and that. I've seen a lot of really nasty, hysterical, violent stuff from liberal sectors on my Facebook page. that really, I think, exemplify a lot of hypocrisy and stupidity and fear-based logic. And fear-based logic isn't good when it happens on the right, and it's not good when it happens on the left. It shows how human and flawed people are. So until next time, I'll see you later. Bye-bye.